The face of Brad Dourif is one that has haunted the collective subconscious of cinema for over 5 decades. Known for eyes that seem to vibrate with an intensity few actors can match, Dourif has carved out a legacy as the definitive outsider of Hollywood. From the trembling vulnerability of Billy Bibbit in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest to the sinister, plastic-bound soul of Chucky in the Child's Play franchise, his career is a study in the art of the unsettling. However, in recent years, a quiet stillness has settled over his once prolific filmography. The frequent appearances in high-profile projects began to taper off, leaving many to wonder if the industry had moved on from its favorite character actor or if the man himself had decided to step out of the spotlight. Supporting the growth of the channel and staying updated with the latest episodes can be done by liking the video and subscribing to the Final Cut Stories. The journey of Brad Dourif did not begin in the shadows of horror, but in the prestigious light of the Academy Awards. His debut performance in 1975 was nothing short of a revelation, earning him a Golden Globe and an Oscar nomination. It was a start that usually signals the birth of a leading man, yet Dourif seemed inherently resistant to the traditional path of stardom. He moved to New York, honed his craft in theater, and deliberately sought out roles that challenged the boundaries of comfort. He became the actor directors called when they needed a character who was broken, misunderstood, or dangerously obsessed. This commitment to the fringe of human experience eventually led him to a collaboration with David Lynch in Dune in Blue Velvet, further cementing his status as a performer who existed in the avant-garde. By the late 1980s, Dourif's career took a turn that would define his public persona for generations. He provided the voice and the soul for a possessed doll named Chucky. What could have been a forgettable B-movie gimmick became a cultural phenomenon, largely due to Dourif's ability to infuse a piece of plastic with genuine, terrifying malice. While the role brought financial security and a permanent place in the zeitgeist, it also created a paradox. To the mainstream, he was the voice of a slasher icon. To the industry, he was a specialist in the macabre. This narrow perception often obscured the vast range he possessed, a range that would later be reclaimed in the early 2000s through his haunting portrayal of Grima Wormtongue in The Lord of the Rings. Yet, even after such a global success, the frequency of his appearances began to shift, signaling a change in his professional priorities. The middle years of Brad Dourif's career were defined by a relentless work ethic, often appearing in 5 or 6 projects a year. He became a staple of the independent circuit and a recurring face in genre television, most notably in his searing portrayal of Doc Cochran in the HBO series Deadwood. This role, perhaps more than any other in his later career, reminded the industry of his profound dramatic depth. As the weary, compassionate doctor in a lawless land, Dourif stripped away the theatricality of his horror roles to reveal a raw, human core. The performance earned him an Emmy nomination and seemed to herald a late career renaissance. However, when the series was abruptly canceled in 2006, the momentum of that era shifted into something more selective. Following the conclusion of Deadwood, the landscape of the entertainment industry began to undergo a massive transformation. The mid-budget character dramas that Dourif excelled in were being replaced by massive superhero franchises and high-concept streaming spectacles. While many of his contemporaries fought to stay relevant by taking any available role, Dourif appeared to enter a phase of quiet discernment. He continued to anchor the Child's Play franchise, remaining loyal to the character of Chucky even as the series transitioned from theatrical releases to direct-to-video sequels and eventually a television series. This loyalty was not merely professional but personal, as he eventually shared the screen and the legacy with his daughter Fiona Dourif, who took on a lead role in the later installments. This period also marked a significant personal transition for the actor. He began to express a growing weariness with the traditional Hollywood machine. In various interviews, the discussion often turned toward his desire for a simpler existence away from the grueling schedules of major film sets. The intensity that he brought to the screen was, by his own admission, a demanding process that required a significant emotional toll. As the 2010s progressed, his filmography reflected a man who was no longer chasing the next big break, but rather one who was content to work on projects that held personal meaning or offered a chance to work with longtime collaborators. The prolific output of the 90s had slowed to a steady, deliberate trickle, leading to speculation about whether a formal exit from the industry was on the horizon. Reports from within the industry suggested that Dourif was increasingly finding solace in his private life, focusing on his family and interests that lay far outside the confines of a movie studio. He had long been known as a man of intellect and curiosity, often spending his time between roles exploring music and philosophy. The mystery of his disappearance was not one of scandal or tragedy, but rather a conscious choice to step back from the frantic pace of professional acting. By the time the Chucky television series premiered in 2021, Dourif's participation felt like a gift to the fans rather than a career requirement. He remained as sharp and terrifying as ever. Yet there was a sense that he was finally operating entirely on his own terms, setting the stage for an eventual quiet departure from the craft he had mastered. Gemini said, "The transition into the current decade brought with it a definitive answer to the questions surrounding the future of Brad Dourif's career." In 2024, during the promotion of the third season of the Chucky television series, the news that many had anticipated was finally confirmed. At the age of 74, the veteran actor officially announced his retirement from acting. It was a declaration made with the same lack of fanfare that had characterized his private life for decades. The decision was not prompted by a lack of opportunity or a decline in ability, but by a simple, profound desire to enjoy the remainder of his life in peace. For a man who had spent half a century inhabiting the most tortured and high-strung characters in cinematic history, the prospect of permanent stillness was a hard-earned reward. However, even in retirement, the commitment Dourif felt toward his most iconic creation remained an exception to the rule. While he stepped away from the physical demands of live-action sets and the grueling travel schedules of independent film, he signaled a willingness to continue providing the voice for Chucky as long as the series remained viable. This unique arrangement allowed him to maintain a bridge to his professional legacy from the comfort of his home, ensuring that the character which defined his middle career would not have to continue without its original soul. It was a rare compromise in an industry that often demands an all-or-nothing commitment, reflecting the immense respect the creators and fans held for his irreplaceable contribution to the genre. The legacy left behind is one of uncompromising artistic integrity. Dourif never succumbed to the pressures of becoming a conventional leading man, nor did he allow himself to be diminished by the character actor label. Instead, he elevated the very concept of the supporting role, often outshining the stars of the films he inhabited through sheer psychological depth and technical precision. From the prestigious halls of the Academy Awards to the gritty streets of Deadwood and the dark corners of horror cinema, his filmography serves as a masterclass in versatility. He navigated the shift from the golden age of 1970s filmmaking to the digital era with a quiet dignity, proving that a career built on talent rather than celebrity could endure for over 50 years. Today, Brad Dourif lives a life far removed from the cameras and the intense scrutiny of the public eye. He has successfully achieved what few in his position ever manage: a graceful exit on his own terms. The narrative of his career is not one of a sudden disappearance or a fall from grace, but a logical conclusion to a life spent in the service of storytelling. As he moves into this final chapter, the work he left behind remains as vibrant and unsettling as the day it was filmed. The man who gave a voice to the voiceless and a face to the fringe has finally stepped into the quiet, leaving a void in the industry that is unlikely to be filled by any who follow.